Alright, today we're doing a flatback plaque on a match plate. This is SK, Supply Corps, what's now called a Logistics Specialist, LS. It's the drag half of our flasks, and that's our riddle. It's a number 8. That means it has 8 dividers per inch, so 1/8 inch, which is rather coarse for a riddle, but it's all I need. I'm just trying to get out the metal. My sand's real good, though it is well-used Petrobond. I wear one glove when I'm doing this in case there's some sharp metal in there. You don't want to get cut. It makes for a bad day as you're rubbing your hand through dirty sand. Go ahead and use your shovel, fill your flask up. The way my bench is I'm working directly over my sand, so anything that falls out drops right back in, ready to use again. Piece of metal or a piece of wood. You can see I'm going at that with the peen of that rammer. Get another shovel and fill her on up. You can ram about 2 inches of sand at a time and get a good solid ram. So with these dimensional lumber flasks, that's 3.5 inches. You can get most of your pieces with 2 rams. You may have to add a little to fill in the corners. Again, we go with the peen just to get it set. Then you switch to the butt end to flatten it out. Notice I'm going kind of hard at the corners because they're going to be the soft. They're the hardest place to reach with a rammer. Grab a strike. It's a piece of aluminum angle iron. Just move this off. This doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. You notice I'm being gentle. You don't want to move the flask while the pattern's still in place. It can cause you to get that double look, mess up your impression. All right, there's your bottom board. I don't normally flip at the bottom board. I'm doing that because of the videoing. I normally just put it on a bottom board behind me. All right, now we're wrapping it. That's my wrapping stick. Like I said, I normally do this in another location. You'll see later. But for the video, this makes it easier. All right, we lift our pattern, attach the match plate. Everything looks good. Nothing to touch up. So I'll just blow it out. The air hose. Technically you can do this with bellows, but I would be lost without an air hose. And set this side behind me and come back with the co-path of our flask. Grab a ram up board. Now all we need is a good clean flat board. Make sure I grab the right side because one side has been smoothed carefully. Just a dusting, a parting. Back to the riddle. Since we're doing a flat back, the top side of our pattern is just flat, so there's nothing in the cope except for the sprue and the pouring cup. This is a sort of a project that a beginner should be doing, get you going. It takes a lot of potential problems out. You can have a small run out and still have a good finished piece. And making homemade flasks, you're going to get runouts. Go with that peen and go nice and hard. Trying to move sand out in the corners because the corners are always going to be soft and require extra work. You do this for a while and you pick up all these little things that you have to do to make it all go faster. You notice I didn't ram real hard there because I just don't need it. Once you get that first inch of sand in as hard as you need, the rest of it's just backing it up. A little extra sand for that back corner. There's some for the front corner. It's acting, it compressed down. Don't want it to be too soft. And the strike again. Smooth this off. Still don't get too aggressive. You don't want to move this on that board, though it's not as important. Sometimes it's good to just practice technique all the time. All right, now I grab my sprue cutter and go over here and show you how to take the measurement for where to cut the sprue. I just use the sprue cutter as a measuring device. My knuckle goes right to the same location on the flask. Sprints down, you leave yourself a mark. Go back and do the other direction. All you got to do is make sure the orientation you put your hand in, you use the same orientation on the other half, and you'll get that sprue in the right location every time. Now when you put this in, you just push it straight in, don't hammer it, and don't twist it. It'll put smiley faces on that board if you twist it. Then you have to replace that bottom board a lot. Cut the pouring basin and clean it out. In case you need it for special school, that is literally a household spoon. A little bit of parting dust. This helps you see it when you're pouring, and it also helps you spot the loose sand. Use a soft brush. That's an artist brush. Don't use your wife's makeup brush. They look the same, but you'll get in trouble. Blow out. Always check your work. I wasn't happy with mine. Blow it again. We're good to go. All right, here we are closing up the mold. Let's cope on the drag. Dust cover so nothing falls in the sprue while the molds are waiting. And then label them so you know how to get them in the right order when you lay out your pour. Setting aside to go on to the next one. All right, here we are out of the pouring deck. I'm opening up the furnace. This is yellow brass, so I'll be going at this at just under 1100 centigrade. The number is actually 1096 centigrade, my pouring temp. I'll normally go ahead and go up to 1100. Get my PP in order. We start skimming. As soon as you break the dross off the top, you'll get a big puff of zinc smoke. Just choose your location where you're upwind of it. You have to kind of move around because you got to reach in there and get all the dross off the crucible. If you can't tell, I'm throwing it in a metal bucket. Metal buckets are really handy around the foundry. Alright, I'm happy with it for now. Got the lifted tongs. Remember, you'll see me tilt this. That's so I don't take the clip with it. Put it into the pouring shank. Those tongs out, set them aside. And something popped up, some dross. I went back, got the skimmer, and get that one more scoop of dross out of there. I'm happy. I lose my right glove. I really don't like to wear gloves when I pour, but this is too hot for me not to wear one. You can see how full this crucible is because I actually spilled a little bit of metal there. That's an A20, so that's about 66 pounds of metal. This is the biggest crucible I would recommend anybody to try and pour brass on their own. You can do an A30 in aluminum, but you cannot do an A30 in brass, or even an A25. Pouring all the molds. As you can see, I'd already poured one pour this morning. That's why half the molds, they're done, they're finished. They've already been poured. Now it looks like all that smoke's in my face. It's not. It's to my side. That's why sometimes I do a reverse camera. You all can see the smoke's just not affecting me at all. I didn't calculate my metal real well because I got a full ingot. But that's okay. We'll melt that next time. All right, here we are an hour later. I'm going to open the mold, see what our results were. This one isn't too hot or it would be smoking. Here we are, cross keys, perfect. Right at the grinding table. This is probably the next day. I start with a flap wheel to do the gross cleanup, and then go to files. I have a rotary file, but for flats, I really like to just use a hand file. Now we're over to the buffers. Now, I cut out a lot of that. I filed on that for about half an hour. And this buffing was actually probably 20 minutes or so. I have 4 buffers. Each one of them's got a different buff and different cutting material. I use black and Tripoli. I only use 2. The one where I'm now is a big sisal wheel on a 1 horse. This is Tripoli on a 3rd horse, 6-inch wheel. And here's a finished piece, completely buffed out. All right, now we're in the shop. Let me show you how I mount. I use this automatic center punch to pop 2 holes. I put the holes in the most discreet place in any piece and drill them out with an 1/8-inch drill bit. Notice I started angling and straighten up. You want to get these holes as straight up and down as you can, or you may have your piece try and pop because of the angles. It kind of wedges the piece up. All right, now I go to a piece of leather, flip this over, and I put my touch mark. These all get marked HT1, sometimes better than others. Most people will never see this because it's on the back side, which gets mounted, which we're going to show you in a second. Now, this is just for this display. I don't use a piece of wood that messed up ever. This is clear Gorilla Glue. This is the best glue I've found for mounting. I used to use super glue. I've tried Gorilla Glue. With either one of them, if you get any squeeze out at all, you can't clean it up. The regular super glue will leave you yellow foam, and the super glue, if it squeezes out, it turns white and messes the surface up. You'll have to throw out the back or completely resand it and redo it. With this clear Gorilla Glue, you can wipe off the excess if you have any squeeze out with a Q-tip, and it's invisible. You can't even tell it's there. Now I use brass brads. You have to get these online. They're hard to find in a store. I'll tap these down. What this does is basically it clamps this in place for that glue to set. And I use a nail set. See me here. Put this down nice and tight. You can see how they're mounted. Finally, the last thing is every finished piece gets a picture. So everybody gets a picture of their actual piece